Welcome to Spoiler Keys Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Megan Kearns. My pronouns are she, her. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network, and I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
My name is Dave Riedel. My pronouns are he, him. I write about movies, and I am also a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
And my name's Evan Crean. My pronouns are he, him. I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s movie guide to better living.
Yes, you are.
Jinx.
Almost in unison.
Mm-hmm. So close.
Wait a minute. Don't I owe you a frosty beverage now, Megan?
Yes, you do. I love a frosty beverage. So, in addition to frosty beverages, we're going to talk about movies. But before we dive into this week's show, check out our Patreon. If you are a member for $5 a month, you get access to special weekly bonus episodes. And if you're not, consider joining. This week, we talk about Spike Lee's Malcolm X in honor of Black History Month. And we had a lot of fun with that conversation, so go check it out.
Please do.
So the films we're going to be talking about this week, we're going to be talking about The Sky is Everywhere, A Banquet, and Strawberry Mansion. And we're going to kick things off with The Sky is Everywhere, a YA romance drama directed by Josephine Decker, written by Jandy Nelson, who adapted her novel of the same name. And this stars Grace Kaufman and Pico Alexander, as well as co-starring Cherry Jones and Jason Segel. And this is about Lenny, a teen girl who has lost her sister. Her sister died very tragically and unexpectedly due to a heart arrhythmia. And she is just enveloped in her grief, understandably so.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of starts a flirtation, sort of, not quite romance, but starts making out with her sister's boyfriend, who's also grieving. And then at the same time, she also meets this new guy in school who she has a big crush on. And they're both musicians in the school band, and they connect on music. And so it's basically about that. It's about her burgeoning relationship, her grief, and so on and so forth. So what did you guys think?
Well, I'm going to start this one.
All right. He's not passing. He's
I know,
jumping
you got
right
got some thoughts. I love it.
Because we have talked many times on this show about what is or is not an Evan movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say definitively, The Sky is Everywhere is not a Dave movie. I haven't seen a movie in such a long time that was so slipshod in its narrative that didn't know what it was, didn't have any idea. Just first of all, none of these people are real people, except maybe maybe Lenny. Lenny comes across as kind of like, I could buy that 17-year-old is having that experience grieving her, older sister's death. But everything else, and
it is a kind of weird, heightened kind of world that these characters are living in. Not just for the surreal elements, but I agree, even the characters kind of feel like surreal.
Yeah. I mean, the whole big thing at the end when Grandma's like, have you ever asked me how I felt about whatever what is the sister's name? Is it Bailey?
Bailey.
Yeah. About your sister's death. And it's just like, yeah, but Grandma, you're an asshole. I mean, like, why would I ask you about it? You fucking throwing away all of her shit when I told you not to? Like,
yeah, that was a dick move.
Like, let me fucking lie in her clothes. I miss my dead sister. Like, what's wrong with you? The only character I buy in this movie, and buy is in air quotes, is Jason Segel as her uncle, because only Jason Segel could play that part and kind of not make it a farce, even though it absolutely deserves to be.
And there's not enough Jason Segel.
Yeah. But I mean, like,
he's strangely grounded in this.
Yeah,
like extremely
really
grounded in a way that he's just, I have not seen this level of restraint from him. And I think anything.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. And just like, so Grace Kaufman, she's fine. I mean, I think that the character is kind of, Jason Segel is, like he said, just when we get to Joe, who's the other music prodigy, it's just like, who the fuck is this kid? It's like, you saw her making out with like her dead sister's boyfriend, and that's what turns you off. Just take a step back from your stupid 17-year-old self and just think about maybe for a moment what she's going through and how that might make her feel that she would do things that she normally wouldn't do. Because let me just see if I can reiterate to you, her sister has died in the most tragic and well, it's kind of expected, but kind of unexpected. She has a heart arrhythmia, but like, just, fucking cut her some slack, man. It's not like she's out, dating the entire football team. She's kissing one guy who she has an emotional connection with. Go fuck yourself and play guitar. God. Oh, and by the way, no guitarist carries over his guitar wearing his guitar. Like, no, that I like when he shows up at the front door and he's wearing his acoustic guitar with the strap. It's like, who the fuck is this kid? How far did you walk with that around your neck?
I might have met people who would be like that.
Wearing their guitar?
I could see it.
It feels like a no-no. And I'm not a guitarist. Probably a no-no. I mean, but I could see someone I know doing that.
It's the kind of thing, if you were a walking troubadour, I'd buy that, but not if you were some 17-year-old kid going over to a girl's house. I don't know, just everything, and just like the heightened reality, and sometimes their emotions showing up above their heads, like when grandma's crying and there's a rain cloud, she's literally standing under a rainstorm like it's a fucking episode of some Charlie Brown thing. Like, just dumb. It's just dumb. And then you've got the poor best friend who, by the way, I don't believe for a minute that Lenny would have worn that dress to try to impress Joe. I mean, the red form-fitting dress, which is just so wildly out of left field. And I get that you're trying to make up with your best friend at the same time, but this is also just ridiculous. So that's how I felt, or I feel.
Evan, what did you think?
Well, I can say this is not an Evan movie, but I don't know if either of you are surprised by that. This is one of the best looking movies that I have really disliked. I think the cinematography and the use of color in this film is like, I just can't even describe how good it looks. I was continually impressed by like, wow, it's such vibrant, vivid colors. I'm like, really like looking at this movie, but I just can't stand most of the content in it. I know I'm also ragging on this pretty hard. I think my biggest thing, the way her grief is, it's so overbearing on everyone else, and I can't stand that it leaves such little room for other people to also be grieving. It's just like, there's so many points where you have this character, it's like, my grief is the only grief that matters, and fuck everyone else. Like, even when someone's like trying to show some kind of like empathy, she's like, I'm gonna be mad and walk away, but like also still pay attention.
Yeah.
I mean, grief is tricky.
Yeah, no, I know that it is, but I feel like most normal people who are grieving also understand other people around them, especially in their family. I just feel like she's just so like closed off from the fact that her grandmother and uncle, who are basically her parents, like how they would be feeling in this situation. So the surreal elements don't land with me either for the most part. They just feel kind of twee, when they're playing and they're like floating in the air, or you see the animations of like trees coming out of the ground. Or the really weird sound effects that they inject in the movie.
Oh
like
my god, like
boner boing and
like they were
like that. It's just like,
it's the sound effects out of Scrubs. It's like
Oh my God,
I expected fucking JD to walk in with Elliot being like, Elliot, you're too serious, or whatever the fuck they used to say to her. Anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, anyway, I know I'm ripping on this movie too. I wanted to like it. I thought it was great looking, like I said, and I don't know. I think it has the bones for a good movie. I think just I don't know if it's the style of storytelling that doesn't resonate with me, the character that's just ultimately a turn off, or just I don't feel like this has anything really novel to say about grief and grieving. It could be any of those things, but I feel like we've been railing on it, but I'm really curious, Megan, if you agree or disagree with us, because I think that could be a more interesting conversation than us just griping.
Well, guys, I've got some shocking news. I agree with you both.
I love the build up on that.
I know. So, and it pains me to say that, because I love Josephine Decker as a director. Love her. I am obsessed with her Shirley Jackson biopic, Shirley. I love that film. That was one of my top films of, I think it was 2020. I also love her film, Madeline's Madeline. It is weird. It is great. It is also surreal, but in a different way. And I love it. And the thing of it is with both of those films, and she's done other films too, but those are the two I've seen, there's kind of a dark edginess to those films. And especially with Madeline's Madeline, she edited it herself and she also wrote it. And I'm wondering if that's why this film is so different, because not only did she not write it, she didn't edit it. I don't know. But yeah, so because I love her so much, it pains me to say that oh my God, this film drove me nuts. I did not like it. And I found it tedious. I thought the acting was horrendous. I thought it was so bad and so wooden. I think Jason Segel is the only one who comes out unscathed in this. Even Cherry Jones, who is a great actor, I thought
she really is. Yeah.
Yeah, she is. And I think she's terrible in this. I'm like, what is happening? It's so bizarre.
It's because that character sucks. That character's not a real person.
I'm so glad you said that, Dave, because that's what I kept thinking the whole time watching. I'm like, these are not real characters. They're not really grieving. I don't really give a shit what's happening to them because I don't really buy the emotions that they're exuding. And emoting. I don't feel that these are real characters. I don't feel that they're real emotions. So everything that's supposed to like hit you, and I cry at a film at the drop of a hat, as you guys know. I felt numb the entire time watching it.
Bone dry.
Yes. Not a tear, not a nothing, not a little twinge of anything. It was just numb, sheer numbness, which is so bizarre. It's not the way I feel when I watch films usually, even bad films.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the dialogue is trite. The characters are poorly written. And yeah, it just felt like the actors were completely going through the motions, which is bizarre. I hated the narration. The narration was unnecessary and awful.
Yeah.
And I didn't enjoy the ending. If you're going to make it a point that, you know, he's pissed off because of the dishonesty, because his previous girlfriend cheated on him in Paris or wherever, and then he sees her and he thinks she's cheating on him. Okay, fine. But let's actually lean into that and have a conversation about boundaries and honesty. But no, we're just going to be like, I found your letters and it was a sign. And oh my God, it's a sign from my dead sister. And now we're going to get in this hot air balloon.
Yeah.
What? Like, what the fuck is happening? It just was, it was weird and not in a good way. The one thing I will say that I did actually genuinely really, really like about the film, I agree with you, Evan. I think the film looks really good. I like the lighting. I like the cinematography. I love the vivid color palette. It's great. Unlike you guys, I actually really liked the infusion of the dreamlike moments, the kind of magical realism sort of. I love the dance sequences. I kind of liked the floating in midair. I loved the rain cloud over Cherry Jones's head when she's like weeping. And for me, those are the best parts of the film. And they also really feel like they tap into Josephine Decker's style because her background was in performance art. And it really reminded me of Madeline's Madeline, which is kind of this like fever dream, surreal type film about dance and performance and theater. Anyway, so I actually really liked those parts of the film, but that was sadly it for me. Other than that, this was a grueling experience.
Yeah. I'm going to add one more thing that, so I didn't, as you know, generally speaking, don't read press notes, blah, blah, blah. This movie was over and I read the press notes and I was like, oh, this whole movie is about her choosing between Toby, the sister's boyfriend, and Joe. Yep. I didn't get that at all. I just got that was like that Toby was a road bump on the way to Joe.
Totally.
You know, it never occurred to me that that was supposed to be a fleshed out thing. And the other thing about Joe getting all pissed off about, you know, the dishonesty or whatever, you two weren't going out. You had no agreement that you were exclusive. None.
Yep.
So go fuck yourself.
That's 100% correct.
I feel like he could have at least given her the opportunity to just explain. He kept cutting her off, and it's like, okay, that's fine. Like, that can be a hard line for you, regardless, you know, kissing someone else. But like, at least if someone's trying to say something, let them finish, and then give them the opportunity. You know what I mean? Let them finish, and then you can give them the closure if they had an opportunity to explain. It just, that explanation was not justification for you. The end. But it's like Megan said, it's a weird pivot at the end that he's like, okay, sure, fine, I had these notes of yours that I found and it's all good. And also, like, shouldn't we be annoyed about the fact that it's like you have this main character who's processing grief, and it's like the way through the grief is just to fall for a guy,
right?
Or have these two guys that she has to choose between.
Thank you. Oh, well, because Evan, that means she's really living life. She's really sucking the marrow out of life by making out with dudes and having to choose between two dudes. It's so fucking stupid. And listen,
yeah, it is.
I'm not here to slut shame anyone. You want to make out with people? Make out with all the people. Sleep with all the people. And we saw a film last year like that where a girl does that as she's grieving the death of her mother. And I was totally into that movie. But you know what? No. Men for a hetero relationship for a straight girl, they're not going to solve all your problems. And that sends a really icky message. I don't like it. So I'm so glad you brought that up, Evan.
Yeah, I've had a feeling I was not alone in feeling that way about the movie.
No. I mean, I will say in the film's defense, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but in the film's defense, at least she decides she's going to go to Juilliard and that she's like, no, fuck you. I am going to vie for first chair for the oboe or clarinet, whatever it is.
Yeah, clarinet.
Thank you, clarinet. I don't know why I thought it was the oboe.
Yeah. Clarinet, one of the least attractive of the woodwinds, but that's okay.
I'll make no judgment about that. I think another thing that blew my mind was the fact that most of this movie takes place over the course of winter break. It feels like months have gone by.
Yeah, that's true.
It does, actually.
I didn't even realize that until you said it. I'm like, that's right.
Yeah, because what you were saying about how she goes to, you know, the girl who took her first chair clarinet away. Yes. She's like, when we get back from break, I'm going to take it back. I'm like, wait a minute, you're still on winter break?
That's a really great point.
It's really fucking funny. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that fits. Also because this film is so tonally jarring, which I don't know if that was intentional because of grief, you know, comes out of nowhere sometimes, but I don't know. It didn't work. Anyway, very sad to say this did not work for me at all.
Yeah.
Nope.
Wow. I can't believe we all agree on that. Wow.
Hey.
Do we have any final thoughts before we move on?
No, my vitriol is all spent.
Yeah, I think I'm also tapped out.
You guys are going to be super mellow for the rest of the show.
Yeah, everything else is fucking aces compared to that.
All right, well, let's talk about our next film, which is Strawberry Mansion. And this is a sci-fi romantic comedy directed and written by Albert Birney and Kentucker Audley. And Audley also stars in the film. Actually, Birney is also in the film too. And this is a really weird film that is about takes place in the year 2035. And it's about how our dreams are taxed. And a tax auditor goes into people's dreams when they're not paying their dues, paying their fees, and charges them money so the taxes can get collected. And he goes to this older woman's house, and she has everything, like everything is analog. Everything is on like VHS tapes. She hasn't updated anything. And goes into her dreams and starts falling in love with her, but her younger self. And it's about that and about how they then are on the run in the dreams. And yes.
Kind of reminded me in that regard of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Very much so. Yeah.
And I'm going to make two observations and then let you both go, because if I don't do them now, I'll forget them. First, did it strike anybody as weird that he would fall in love with the younger version of Bella, just because, you met her as an older woman? I know you're looking at her dreams, but I mean, come on. It just seems a little bit cruel. Is not the right. Yes, ageist. Let's go with ageist.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut in there.
No, that was right though. And then I forgot what the other point was I was going to make. Overall, I really did like this though. Oh, it was a little bit. It meandered a little bit in the dream sequences toward the end after Bella's son, who comes to, I don't know, Bella dies and and the son inherits everything, and he whacks Preble over the head, Kentucker Audley. It's not funny. Puts him in a bed and then lights the house on fire. And like the last third of the movie is him, having this dream and not realizing the house is on fire.
Yeah. Well, I think you're the reason why he does that, you find out. And I think this is where the movie is really interesting, this idea of taxing dreams, because
totally
you have ads that are inserted into dreams. You find out that her son, who's played by Reed Birney, he is the head of this, the biggest advertising agency in the country, and they insert all these crazy ads into people's dreams in a way that most people aren't even realizing it. And she has invented this helmet that allows you to block out the ads. And so he both learns that this is happening and then uses the helmet, realizes, okay, this is really happening and we need to put a stop to this. And so Reed Birney sees him and he's like, okay, well, he's got caught wind of what's going on. I need to take him out and make sure he's dead so he can't tell anybody about this.
Yeah, but then lights the house on fire and then just leaves him there, assuming he won't wake up. I mean, it's not the greatest James Bond villain move ever, but okay.
No, definitely not.
I'll accept it for the purposes of this narrative, because the narrative is so... I mean, that narrative is actually kind of conventional. It's the imagery that is like out there. So, like the blue demon creature, I thought was kind of fascinating.
Yeah, the blue demon creature was pretty funny, especially when we see it's going to bed and it goes over to its bed and it's got like a lamb stuffed animal that it needs to move over to lay down in its sheets and go to bed. Like, just something to me is so funny about the idea of a demon having a stuffed animal.
It's so cute.
Yeah, it was cute.
So, Evan, what did you think of the film?
I love the concept. I think this is a really fun concept. I love the art direction. I can't help every time I say Strawberry Mansion, I just picture Raspberry Beret in my head and some variation of the song told about a strawberry mansion instead. But yeah, I liked the concept and I think there were some really great ideas in the movie. I think based on what you both know about me and my movie tastes, this movie, the last act, it descends into a weirdness that I just couldn't come back from. It just got to be so bizarre in its imagery and content that I was like, the main character was lost in a dream world and unable to kind of claw my way back out into enjoying the story. And I feel like that's really my biggest critique, is that for me, it's just too weird in places. Even though I really like the ideas, I like the direction, I like the kind of, even though it's, takes place in the future, it has a very retro look and feel to it, a very analog quality from it's like a graininess, almost like you're watching like a VHS tape of all of this happening. And I think it's a really clever idea, the taxing dreams and identifying specific things in the dreams that you're charging people for. I think that's really cool. And I like the whole thing about ads and it's a marketer. I think it's really cool, the site, and messed up. I mean, I don't mean to be like, yeah, this is a great idea. I just think it's a cool concept in the movie to play with, that they're inserting ads into people's dreams, especially in this main character. And his job is to review people's dreams. And somehow he's so sucked in by the ads and this character of Buddy who's always showing up in his dreams with things he needs, whether it's the bucket of chicken or the spider killing spray or whatever other thing that he thinks that he needs. I just thought that was a really cool idea, and I liked seeing that on screen. Anyway, what did you think, Megan?
I love this. I saw this last year at IFF Boston in April, I believe, May or April, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. It stuck with me for almost the entire year. I think it's great. I found this beautiful and romantic and tender, and it is weird and strange and hallucinogenic, and that's why I loved it. I mean, it is so visually striking. It is so vivid and just out there and really goes for it. And I love that. And I love the graininess and how it feels like you're watching a VHS tape. Yes, just like her dreams on VHS tape. Like I love that. And I love the concept as well. And I love how the film is such a sharp critique of marketing and capitalism and consumerism. And I think it really captures the irreverence and absurdity of dreams, like just how kind of random they are and just weird things happen.
Yeah.
At least in my dreams they do. And I, from, talking with other people and reading about dreams, seems like that happens a lot. So I think that, and it's really hard for films and TV series to capture that visually. And I think this does a really great job of that. And I think it also really captures the yearning and delight of connection, of being connected to another person. And yeah, so I just adored this. I thought it was wonderful.
Sweet.
So we're all kind of in agreement, except for Evan, who poo-pooed on the last third. But
I was so stressed out the whole time. Like he was seeming like I know the dream world. You don't process time. You process time differently in dreams and alternate realities than you do in reality, but it's so stressful knowing that the house is literally on fire and the flames are about to touch his feet, and he's probably inhaling so much smoke, and he's just in the dream world living lifetimes, and it just was so stressful to me.
That was stressful. But yeah, and like I said, that got a little long for me. But overall, I really enjoyed this a lot. I loved the look of it. I did, like, the whole time I was watching, I'm like, man, this movie looks like, talk about picking an aesthetic choice and just being like, we're running with it.
Yes.
For sure. I mean, and I appreciate that about the movie. I think it's bold in its use of color and its aesthetic and its all of its choices, really. And it doesn't feel like it plays outside of that. And we've talked a lot of times in the show about movies that set rules and then don't play by their own rules. And I think this movie pretty consistently plays by its rules, which I appreciate.
I agree.
Yeah.
I just love that it's so weird and quirky. Oh, it's so great.
Yeah. And another example, we always talk about sci-fi and how you can do a lot with a little, especially when you're working with a limited budget. If you have a very kind of pointed story that you're trying to tell in a very kind of narrow scope. And I think this movie definitely has that.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I like the acting, like the characters, like the concept, like the art design, production design, like you said. Yeah, I love everything about this.
Yeah. The only critique I have, and it's not even of the movie, because Kentucker Audley's name is not really his name, that's his performing name, it should be Kentucky Audler. That's all I'm going to say.
I can't tell you how many times in my head I change it to Kentucky, though. It's funny you say that.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if there's any connection. This is so dumb. I wonder, it's like, hey, your name's Kentucker. Why don't we have all the dream sequences be about fried chicken? I don't know. Because, Kentucky Fried Chicken. Oh, I'm such an idiot. Okay.
Do we have any other thoughts?
No, that wasn't even a thought.
My last thing is, I think this movie, speaking of the fried chicken, it really perfectly captures the frustration of trying to order anything from an automated system or automated menu when he's at the drive-thru.
Yeah, that's true.
Also, some of the, I was going to say a lot of the food sounds disgusting to me, but some of it, ooh.
Chicken shake? Yeah. I mean, as someone who eats chicken, nothing sounds grosser to me than a chicken shake with extra gravy.
That just reminds me of an episode of Below Deck which, yes, I watch because I love reality TV. And the chef, who's like this fantastic, amazing chef, had to blend everything for a client because her jaw was wired shut. And she said the grossest thing she had to blend was oysters.
Oh my
Ugh.
God, I can't
Ugh.
imagine.
Yeah, because the woman wanted like everything that the other guests were having too. Anyway.
But blended. Give
But
me
blended.
everything, but blended.
Well, hopefully there was like a lot of horseradish and Tabasco and stuff like that. I mean, hopefully it wasn't just oysters, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. It still sounds gross, but yes, I hope so too.
I'm trying to put a happy spin on it. Yeah.
I know, right? But yes, chicken shake sounds disgusting.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about our final film of the episode, A Banquet. This is Ruth Paxton's tense psychological horror film. Or we can argue or debate if it's tense. But this is about a woman, Holly, and she has two daughters, Betsy and Isabel. And her husband was terminally ill and committed suicide. And I'm like, right? Like, I don't know why.
Yeah,
I'm
which you
questioning
see, it's the opening of the movie.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That she's
I thought,
taking care of her husband and he drinks bleach because he
Yes.
just can't take it anymore.
see, now I thought she accidentally gave him the bleach, but I guess not.
No, I thought
No.
because she was like blending something in the blender. So, and then she comes in, she seems shocked by the bleach. So,
No, you're
Yeah, he was in
you're right.
bed too. She
Yes.
laid him down and then he found his way to the bleach and he was on the floor
yes,
with the bleach.
thank you. I don't know why I was second guessing. Was that her husband? I thought it was. Anyway.
Absolutely right.
Okay, thank you. So yes, so they're all dealing with the aftermath of that, shocking death and the grief of that. And Betsy, who is the older daughter, she goes to a party and she freezes outside and is staring up at the sky. We see a wide shot of it. And then she starts doing this at home and she stops eating. And her mother becomes very concerned that she is not eating and takes a disturbing turn. And we'll talk more about that too. And Betsy eventually says that she has been chosen and she has visions and she can see that the end of the world is coming and she can see what's coming for everyone. And she has a special role to play. And yeah. And so it goes from there.
But does she have a special role to play other than
Well,
ultimately
let's talk about that.
other than ultimately dying in her mother's arms? I mean, I don't know.
Well, according to her, she does because her role, quote unquote, facilitates her mother's role to transcend to the next world, life. I don't know.
Yeah, it's all quite confusing. I mean, it's really creepy though when she goes outside and she stares at this like blood red moon, which makes me think of Breath of the Wild because that's like a whole thing. It's that like the blood moon is rising and then all these creatures are resurrected. So it's already creepy in my head. But then seeing somebody basically hypnotized and then wandering out in the middle of the woods and staring at nothing, hearing voices. I do think this is a tense movie. You said before we could debate whether it's tense. I think it is. I think this movie is very creepy and very tense, and I think it does a good job of sustaining that.
Yeah.
I think what we might end up arguing in a minute is whether we think it actually pays off or lands at the end, but I think it's pretty consistently tense. And I found myself just totally sucked in, wondering what was going to happen and where this was going. And just very atmospheric, very creepy score. Lots of creepy close-ups.
Yes.
Of people, like of food and faces, like and teeth and mouths, and it's just lots of icky up close shots of things. It's just really unsettling.
I loved those extreme close-ups of mouths.
In a way, it reminded me of The Feast, which we saw, I don't know how long ago, 6 months ago. And yeah, I'm on Evan's page about this. I think that super tense, super creepy. Like I was never quite sure whether Betsy was going to, I don't know, have some sort of episode in which she, murdered everyone, or maybe the grandmother would get the upper hand and have her committed, or which that's a whole different story. The grandmother. There's so many things that are just touched on. That's kind of one of the things that's frustrating. That's just touched on, but then kind of abandoned. Like you learn that Betsy's mother was institutionalized when she was a teenager, and that just comes up like 2/3 of the way through the movie, and then it's one conversation and it's over. And it's like, all right, so is this supposed to imply that there's some sort of mental illness that runs in the family, or that her mother, Lindsay Duncan, somebody remind me of mom's name, I'm sorry, Holly, or that that June, Lindsay Duncan, is just like some overbearing psycho who has no tolerance for anything out of the ordinary, which seems to be the case. Like what exactly is happening? Now, I know that it's fine to have, questions unanswered and things like that, but I don't even think this movie is asking the right questions. I think it's just kind of like, hey, here's something. This may be a red herring. Maybe it isn't. He. I just, it irked me in that way. And I think, like Evan, the payoff did not work for me at all. Megan, how did you feel?
Yeah.
So I also think, because I described this film as tense, kicking. So spoiler alert, I thought it was tense as well. So I agree with you guys. So I think I liked this more than you guys did, because I liked this a lot. And I'm not saying you guys didn't like it. I'm just saying I think I liked it possibly more. I really liked that it's very evasive, that it touches on things. There are very few clear-cut answers. I really dug that. And I was, like you, Evan, I was sucked in. I was sucked in pretty much right from the start. And I was like, where is this going? What ride is this taking me on? And I really enjoyed it. And I was really disturbed in the scene. It's intentionally disturbing. I was very disturbed by the scene when Holly, the mom, she rips Betsy's up from the table because Betsy won't eat, because when she tries to get her to eat before, she eats finally one pea, and then she starts choking and convulsing because she says that food makes her nauseous and she can't eat. And then Holly starts forces her to get on a scale and starts weighing her and starts tracking it. And I'm like, wow, this is so invasive. This is extremely triggering if you have disordered eating, or a history of it. And it's just really uncomfortable and unsettling. And interestingly and strangely, Betsy is not losing weight. But yeah, when I read the press notes, first of all, I should say, so watching this the whole time, I'm like, okay, anytime we're getting a movie, a horror film or a psychological film about bodies and food and eating or not eating, it's always about control, always, whether it's internal control or whether it's control and conformity to society. It's always about that, especially when it deals with women's bodies. And yeah, that is definitely a big part of the film. That certainly was the intention of Ruth Paxton, because reading the press notes and her director's statement, she reveals that she has a history of disordered eating. So that is very intentional that that's in there. But she also wanted to talk about boundaries and how a mother's love can push boundaries to uncomfortable and disturbing places sometimes. And yeah, she also talks about how she had, she's really intrigued by the, quote, ferocity of maternal love, psychology of food and power, and the importance of one's sense of purpose, and the questions of female madness and faith. And I do think this film is really touching on all of those issues. For me personally, I wish it had delved deeper, especially when it comes to faith, because Holly's, I don't want to say conversion, but her change at the end, the fact that she, was atheist or agnostic and then starts praying and then all of a sudden believes Betsy, that she's like, I believe you, I trust you. It just feels weird, and it feels like it came out of nowhere. And it's very clear that the film is trying to tie together the fact that Holly is so disturbed and pissed off that her own mother committed her. And whether she needed it or not, whether it was justified or not, we don't know. We don't know why. but it's clear that she's really upset about that and angry because it was against her will.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't want to do that to Betsy. And so it's very clear that there's a connection there, but it's never really explored fully. But I don't know. The film, for me, is raising these issues and asking these questions so kind of provocatively and in such an evocative way that I was kind of okay with it, that it doesn't really answer anything and that it has such a kind of ambiguous ending that, well, not ambiguous in the sense that Betsy dies, but then Holly, it seems like Betsy's prophecy comes to fruition because she talks about how the stars are going to burn and we're all going to burn up. And then we see Holly outside and that looks like that's what's happening to her. And then it cuts to black. So I don't know.
I got to say though, if that's what was really happening, that was a really mild stars burning kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It felt like it was building to something very epic, and it did not. It didn't work for me. Although I agree with you that the film asks a lot of interesting questions, and I agree that it doesn't have to answer them. I don't think that I needed the ending to answer all of my questions, because there are a lot of great, compelling topics in there around, like you said, faith, weight, the mother's, relationship and love, and how that is so boundary pushing, because it does between mother and daughter and grandmother and granddaughter and grandmother and mother. It's like there is a lot of boundary pushing in ways that are deeply uncomfortable, and I think are meant to make you think. But I found it so tense and so captivating that I guess I thought we were building to something just like so totally epic that when we got there, I was like, this does not feel in line with what we've been building to, because I felt like this seemed like we were going to go like all in with something, just totally bonkers is going to happen here. Like everyone's going to end up dead, or like, I think Dave, you said like, oh, I think she's just going to murder everyone. I was expecting that kind of ending, and I would have been fine with it. It didn't answer those questions, but I don't know. I was really hoping for something deserving of all that buildup.
I think you wanted an ending that was like the feast, or like Saint Maud.
Yes.
Which
yeah,
that
I think
ending,
I wanted Saint Maud.
Yes, that ending is so shocking and so jarring. Like I still am haunted by it like a year later.
Me too.
Yeah. But I agree with you. Like I forgot to say this. I do agree with you guys that I think the film runs out of steam. I think it has so many great ideas and it's doing everything so well. I love the editing. I love the cinematography. I love the really tense score. I really like the acting. I think all the elements are there and all the themes are there, but I agree. I hate to say that it needed more of a, for lack of a better word, a punchy climax or shocking ending, because I don't normally think that. But yeah, but I do think that the film kind of does run out of steam here. Which
that's a great way to put it. It just kind of like it just kind of peters out. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, when you wake up from whatever nap you're having, and your daughter, who has been like apparently in your mind losing her mind, and then she's just dead. And you're like, oh, I'll just go outside. Just like, I mean, everything in this movie is sort of, this movie's like at a 10 the whole time, with like, it opens up with a man gagging and barfing and drinking bleach, not poisoned by his wife, as it turns out. I misread that. And then just like all of the fucking gross food imagery. And then, just everything is just, when, Betsy first goes out and is, I don't know, possessed or hears the voices or has the conversion, whatever. It's just all so in your face. And then it's just not, it's just kind of like, well, everything becomes very nebulous and sort of, there's this sinister thing with grandma. There's this, maybe mom was mentally ill. Maybe she wasn't, her mother had her committed for some reason. Is this all a reaction to her father's death? Is it a grief thing? I mean, what is all this? And I think that I don't even think it's broaching those questions. It's kind of just like, it's like, this could be the question. I mean, and I agree with you both that, we don't have to answer the questions that we ask in movies, but I don't even think the questions are that clear. It's just kind of like, it's a really great experiment in maintaining a consistent tone, you know, for, 85 of its, 95 minutes. But yeah, that ending just what a downer, but not because it's like, oh, I feel so down because the ending was, no, just fucking sucked. Just like, it's like,
I will say, listening to you talk, Dave, I don't know, for some reason it reminded me of you talking about the film and what happens in the film, and the fact that Betsy keeps talking about how everything is pointless, that there's no point to everything, that she says to her mom, like, haven't you ever thought about, like, why even bother, and pain's gonna be over and then everything's gonna be great. It kind of reminded me of what She Dies Tomorrow is doing, in that everyone has this kind of panicked reaction when they know, it's their last day on Earth. But then for a lot of the people, they're kind of like, yeah, I'm going to die. It's okay. Like, and they have this kind of acceptance. And it is kind of interesting that Betsy does kind of have this acceptance about it. And it's disturbing, but also kind of fascinating. But yeah, but I do think that the biggest issue is the last kind of 20 minutes, 30 minutes of the film. It just treads water, unfortunately. But other than that, I think it's really great and doing everything really great, at least for me.
Although I think at times it's almost more disappointing when you love a movie for 95% of it, and then that last 5 minutes really just blows it.
Yeah.
It was so sad. I was so sad when the movie was over. Like, damn it. This was like so close to being a perfect movie for me.
Yeah, it really does come close. I mean, man, that scene when, it's a dream sequence. That also bummed me out. The fucking the dream sequence. It was like, yes. Oh my God, she's rearranging, like, I don't know if this is food that she's taken from the kitchen, and it was like one of the meals that they had earlier, and she's just rearranging it on the floor. But then it turns out to be her mom dreaming about that, folk horror story that her grandmother told her. It's like, come on,
Yeah, the Futakuchi Onna.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I'm like, a mouth in the back of the head. I'm like, that's Malignant. Malignant
yes,
clearly
that's what I thought too.
Yeah, I'm like, Malignant clearly, James Wan clearly got that from the Japanese folktale monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the way, I was reading about that once after they brought it up in the film, and I'm like, this is fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, because the first time that they mentioned it, I was like, the same reaction you two had. I'm like, it's Malignant. Oh my God. So, because I don't know that folk story, so that was all news to me. So,
man, but it was weird, and I liked it. But yeah, I was kind of disappointed it didn't lean into that more. But at least we get a dream sequence. But yeah,
I don't know. Dream sequences are they're starting to bum me out more and more the older I get.
Oh no.
Well, it's just like, all right, we've done this thing and we've dreamed it, and is it like, it's kind of funny that I like Strawberry Mansion as much as I did, considering it's a third of it is dreams. But this is just like, it throws in one, and that would have been fascinating if she goes over, if mom goes over to Betsy, and grandma was right. It is a story about just like she's feeding this monster in the back of her head. It would have been like, fucking right, man. But no. Because then at least something would have happened. I think you just made an interesting point, Megan, where Betsy is saying the whole time, what's the point of all this? But kind of like the movie is making, that's kind of what the movie's attitude is too.
Yeah.
But if that's the attitude, then why bother making the fucking movie? I mean, kind of disappearing up your own ass when we get to that point. So anyway, I mean, I think I've thought about this movie a lot. So because like you two, it really stuck with me,
Yeah. This is a really thought-provoking movie. I think whether you enjoy the ending or whether you despise it, whether it works for you or not, this really is an emotional experience. It's extremely tense, as we keep saying. But I also think it's really thought-provoking. It's the film is forcing you to think about it throughout the whole thing. Like, what is really happening? What's really going on? What are we really seeing? What's reality? And I always think those kinds of questions are really fascinating.
Yeah.
Do we have any final thoughts?
Nope. Not me. I had a lot to say this episode. Woo!
Yeah, he did. Me too. All of us did. I feel like we all had a lot to say about these movies.
Yeah.
I think we had very strong reactions to these movies.
That's true.
Yes, that's true.
Very strong reactions to all
Yes.
3 movies. Yeah.
No tepid responses this week.
Nope.
All right. Well, then let's do a recap. So, The Sky is Everywhere. It is on Apple TV Plus now. I think it's safe to say none of us would recommend this.
That's true.
Yes. Correct.
It so pains me to say that. I love you, Josephine Decker. But yeah, no, this is a no. All right. Strawberry Mansion. So Strawberry Mansion is in theaters now, and it'll be on VOD February 28th. Would we recommend it?
Yeah.
It's not quite my scene, but I think if this is the kind of movie you think you would like, I think it's definitely worth seeing.
All right. And I would enthusiastically recommend it. And then our final film, A Banquet, which is in theaters and on VOD right now. Would you guys recommend it?
Begrudgingly.
Yeah.
Oh, begrudgingly.
I think I would. I mean, even also to just see it and be able to like talk about the ending and talk about the themes, because there's a lot to dig into, a lot of questions, like you said. I think a lot of stuff that's worthy of discussion, even if you feel like it doesn't quite wrap up effectively.
Yeah, something I didn't say that because I keep, as we're talking, more thoughts keep forming in my head about this film, which is really fascinating in and of itself. But yeah, I think it also is really interesting watching this after a pandemic, and for so many of us reevaluating what's important to us, what isn't. You know, I think that kind of hits in perhaps a different way than if I saw this before COVID. But anyway, I would definitely recommend this. I think it's a great film, so I would very, very eagerly recommend this as well. All right. Well, we want to give a huge thank you to our amazing editor, Otto Klammer. Otto, thank you so much for making us sound fabulous week in and week out.
Thank you.
Thanks, Otto.
You actually, and I should say this, you can find Otto on Instagram at Otto Klammer. You can find Spoiler Piece anywhere you can get podcasts. We're all over the place. You can also find us at our website, spoilerpiece.com. You can find us all over social media. We're at Spoiler Piece on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and TikTok. So join us. Come say hello at all the places. Speaking of saying hello, you can also email us at spoilerpiece@gmail.com, or you can call us
at 862-21-PEACE.
You can leave us a voicemail message. You can text us. We love hearing from you. What did you think of these movies? Did you love The Sky is Everywhere? Did you find the ending of A Banquet satisfying? We want to hear from you, so tell us. If you have questions for us, we always love those too. So reach out. And if you like the show, please consider rating and reviewing us. This really helps us out a lot. It gets the word out about the show. You can go to ratethispodcast.com/spoilerpiece, and it will take you to your platform of choice. You can also rate us on Apple Podcasts. That helps us out tremendously. And you can also rate us at Spotify. Although I personally have some issues with Spotify, but that's a whole other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
a lot of
other
people
thing.
do lately.
Yeah. But you can rate us there too. And if you really, really like the show, consider joining our Patreon. As said earlier at the beginning of the episode, this week we talk about Spike Lee's Malcolm X, and we do weekly bonus episodes, exclusive audio, every single, well, I said weekly, so it's every week. And if you subscribe for $5 a month, you get access to all of our weekly bonus episodes, not only forthcoming ones, but in our entire catalog of hundreds of bonus episodes. And they're really great, and we always have a lot of fun with those. You also get to do monthly polls. Right now, we have a poll going on. Also in honor of Black History Month, we have 5 films with predominantly Black casts that you can choose from. So if you're a patron, vote. And if you're not a patron, consider joining. My name is Megan Kearns. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network, a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association. You can follow me on Twitter at OpinionSWorld or on Instagram and Letterboxd at TheOpinionS.
My name is Dave Riedel. I write about movies. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd as Dave Sees Movies.
And my name is Evan Crean. I'm co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd as Real Recon, and that's real as in film reel.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.